So once again, I would like to thank you very much for your patience. This is what coffee breaks are for, and in this case, there was none. We apologize for this delay. Hope not to cause too much trouble in your programs. This is the last panel of the day. It is also streamed on Facebook, and hopefully it will raise an interesting discussion about political rights, a topic that we consider quite crucial and relevant in the process of integration of migrants and refugees. With us as a chair of this panel, we have Adla Sasati. Adla is the head of office of the Greek Forum of Migrants, an umbrella organization for migrant communities in Greece. I see that we are missing one of the panelists. Hopefully she will join after Adla has a short speech as well. Adla, the floor is the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Adla Sasati. As Nico said, I'm the head of office in Greek Forum of Migrants. And I would like to thank Intercultural for giving me the opportunity to chair today's panel. So I know some of you might be quite tired, but let me start with quoting some large numbers in order for us to wake up. So it's 21.8 million people, which means around 4.9% of the 446.8 million people living in the EU on the 1st of January in 2019 were non-EU citizens. This means that equal participation for a large number of people in the EU is not a reality, because being a citizen does not only mean paying taxes and holding the desired residence permit, it also means being able to actively participate in the community that you reside. Despite variations in most EU countries, migrants are not eligible to run or vote in parliamentary elections, while in the majority of EU countries, they are not entitled to local representation either. In most cases, only EU citizens have full voting rights in a country of which they are a national. Of course, all EU citizens can vote in local elections and European parliamentary elections, regardless of where they live within the EU. So migrant participation in decision-making or consultation varies, especially at the local level. Voting rights or candidacy rights for national elections are provided for selected categories of non-EU citizens only in Portugal. In Portugal, these rights are extended to citizens of Portuguese-speaking countries, like, for example, Brazil, provided that they are registered to vote, of course, in Portugal. At local level, 12 countries provide access to voting rights for third country nationals, and these are Belgium, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Hungary, Ireland, Lithuania, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Slovakia, Slovenia, and Sweden. Of these countries, 8, which are Denmark, Finland, Ireland, Lithuania, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Slovakia, and Sweden, also allow third country nationals to stand as candidates in local elections. In addition, 2 countries, Spain and Portugal, provide voting rights to a limited group of third country nationals. Portugal also allows third country nationals to stand as candidates, as I also said earlier. So it seems that local governance institutions are better positioned to introduce political rights for migrants, thus laying the ground for integration and coexistence. According to the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, voting would help migrants and refugees to integrate in the host countries, as well as giving them dignity. But voting rights are only one form of political participation. Freedom of expression, the freedom to form organizations, political parties, the right to strike, they are also political rights that have been granted to migrants in some, but not all European countries. There is no doubt that political rights, including the acquisition of citizenship, which is really important, are a major driver for migrant integration, helping to foster their participation in public life. Acknowledging that migration is a permanent feature of the European society, the European Union recognized the importance of migrant integration for social inclusion and growth more than a decade ago. In 2004, this prompted the Council of the European Union to issue a set of common basic principles for migrant integration policy. However, despite a multitude of legal policy and funding instruments, these principles have only been partially implemented. Today in this panel, together with Dragoslav Stefanek, the Special Representative for Migration and Refugees of the Council of Europe, Antonella Valmorbida, the Secretary General of ALDA, the European Association for Local Democracy, and Eriola Balani, the Advocacy Officer of Generation 2.0 for Rights, Equality and Diversity, we will have the opportunity to discuss the reasons behind the closed doors to enjoying political rights at local level. We will look into ramifications of exclusion from political processes and discuss the role of municipalities in jumpstarting the discussion on political rights of migrants and refugees. Of course, in a realistic way, we expect to open the discussion and make the first step in viewing the realities across Europe, which literally start from the democratic participation in local level. And with this, I would like to give the floor to Antonella Valmorbida, who is the Secretary General of ALDA, the European Association for Local Democracy, in order for her to tell us about that. Antonella, you have the floor.
Yes. Thank you very much for the invitation and for giving me the opportunity to debate with you about these important topics. So we sent you a presentation to present a little bit the work of ALDA and some of the projects that we do on the matter. Did you receive it? Or I can try to share my screen. Would you prefer? In case I can share my screen, and that will help me a bit to present our experience. I think I can.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Okay, let me see if I can. Oh, disable attendance screen sharing. All right, yes. Yeah. You see it. Yeah, you see, sometimes these things work, isn't it? Yes, so thank you very much. I think I'm going to present for the next 15 minutes three elements. So one is what is ALDA and why we have something to say about the topic of today. Second, what do I think about civic rights and potential, as it was said, about citizens' engagements, including migrant communities. And third point, what do we do in case legislation do not allow, as it was mentioned, civic engagement or political engagement, as it was mentioned, because situation is differentiated country by country in Europe when it comes to political engagement in municipal councils. So the first point is ALDA. So we have been engaged since 1999 and promoted by the Council of Europe to promote local democracy. We think that local democracy, as you all do, and this is the topics of this session today, local democracy is the place for democracy, for real democracy, and for development, for peace and development. So we are working with local governments, which needs to be the first representative of citizens, and they have to deliver very concretely to citizens all of those who are living in their own territory, so including the migrant communities which are coming up. and also working with civil society. So we think that this is very important, and we can solve issues at the local level together with local democracy. So we are a French-based organization, but we have developed actions throughout Europe. So the 27 member states, the UK, and further on. So we are actually working outside of the EU, and that gives us also the possibility to work from countries where they are transiting, where the migrants are transiting. So we have a lot of actions in the Balkans, and there are a lot of interesting issues going on also in the Balkans right now about how to integrate or not the communities and the migrant routes. We are working in Northern Africa, which is the shores, moving, giving the possibility to migrants to arrive in Italy or in Spain or further on in Europe. And we are working in Eastern Europe, which is also a source of transit from the migrants. This is our figures today. So we have 350 members. You see all the colors here on the map. Those are countries where we have members. And our work is really to promote local good governance. And then now I come to the topics of how do we see civic rights being very important also for the whole community. So we think, and we discussed in the preparation of this meeting, we think that local politics and local policy making are very, very important to respond to local problems and to have solutions. We think that all those who are addressed and touched by the problems should be part of the solution. I think that civic participation, whether it comes from citizens which have the citizenship or not, participation means responsibility, means identification of solutions, means possibilities to unlock potential resources. And we definitely, as ALDA, support this idea that non-citizens, national citizens, could be engaged at the local level in political elections. So, of course, the vote is an immense sense of responsibility. This is what we are sharing with our children when they are 18 and when they sense the first time they have the possibility to say something and to behave, as part of the community. I think that, of course, considering the question of the migrants, I discussed the matter with Nikos before we started. I mean, migrants, if they are transiting, of course, if they are transiting, it's difficult to catch them because they don't belong to this place. They are moving on, so probably they should express their responsibility in another way, maybe by representative, for instance. So it's very important. Just a second, I have an issue here that I should sort out all of a sudden. Sorry about that. I'm sorry, but I have, because this meeting started later, I have to vote. Yeah, we are talking about that. I have to vote. And okay. Sorry. So what does that mean? So I think that when it comes to people traveling, it has a difficulty. So in that case, what we saw is that this community should talk and should interact with local politics through through representatives, so through those who are able to express, their interest and their need. When the migrants land somewhere, and so basically there are no more migrants, because that's what we discussed with Nikos. I feel uncomfortable with this term that foreigners, non-EU citizens are migrants. When you are migrating, you are migrants, but when you arrive somewhere and you are settling and you are in a process of getting involved in the community, you don't have the citizenship, but basically you lose your migrants feature. So I think that the thing that we have to do in this case is to facilitate as soon as possible the capacity of the participants and those who have arrived in this community to be engaged and understand the challenges of the community. And many of them are an immense resource. They are coming and arriving with an immense motivation and wish. So why should we as a community not include them in our struggle and not include them in the potential that they have in terms of their history, the language, the multicultural, perspective that they could have. So I think that from a civic point of view, I think that when people are traveling, because I am living in Italy, so I'm on the route. Yes, they pass. And we have a lot of evidence. They are passing, and if they pass, it's difficult to integrate them in the responsibility of local politics and understand what they are there for. So they have to be represented by other stakeholders or those who are representing the communities. But when they land somewhere and they settle, we need to do as much as possible to have their representativity and to include them as an immense potential. Of course, it has political scenarios because it can change the balance in politics. It can affect the ratio between the different forces. But of course, and we spoke with Nikos, a country which is accepting this is a welcoming country, and to my view, has a great potential to solve more issues and to unlock more strengths and energies that those who are blocking this perspective. So in Italy, there is an immense debate about this. We are not on the list of countries which are allowing foreign citizens to vote at the local level. Of course, as we all know, and our chair mentioned, the EU citizens can vote at the local level wherever they move, but this is not the issue of today. This is one of the EU citizens' rights. You can vote at the local level wherever you move. But for instance, in Italy, there is a big debate around voting at the local level for foreigners, and that in Italy, for instance, there is a big debate about jus soli for the citizenship or jus sanguinis. In Italy, still sanguinis is adopted, so it's not jus soli. So in general terms, this is a quite restrictive country which is creating barrier for integration. So in case, and I go to the third topic, giving my point on the first one, the third topic and the third dimension of ALDA is what do we do in any case for engaging communities of foreigners or migrants which are in a process of getting integrated in a community. So we have, for instance, here our actions, those are all still the description of ALDA. One of the project we have been working on, and Nikos, you have been in touch with Dolinda, who is our project manager, is a big project with 20 more partners in Europe, where we have citizens and civil society connected and working in pairs in order to make sure that the communities are welcoming and hosting communities. So we are developing environment where the migrants arriving in these cities and spending part of their life to rebuild their plans and their life with their family, potentially, hopefully, they are engaged together with the work of the local authorities and the civil society. So we have been working city by cities to understand what are the needs and the dimensions of the migrant communities, what are the priorities and the matchmaking. We have been working also in exchanging possibilities, because Europe is a big context with a lot of various ways of working also when it comes to foreigners, both its political sentiment and also infrastructure, which allow different kind of policies. So we are now in the phase of exchanges policies. For instance, we have the city of Gdansk in Poland, that for them, migrants as a certain dimension, and we have people from the south, both from Portugal or from Spain, from Italy, which have another kind of impacts. And then together we are working on consultation processes, because if this is what I wanted to say, if let's say the classical, civic rights, as you were saying, namely vote and being voted, are not in place, we can also make sure that the communities are engaged through various instruments like the citizens panel, the focus, the consultation, and this kind of mechanism that ALDA is providing in terms of participation. We also create synergies at the international level to create a lobby and advocacy to inclusions of migrants. We are therefore, with this kind of projects, creating a stronger collaboration between the NGOs and the local authorities hosting. We are creating also an EU-wide network of contacts among the actors working on this field. And we want to develop stronger services in the local authorities, which are included in our projects, and developing services for the migrants. So, of course, this is just for the start of the conversation, and definitely looking forward to hear also the other panelists. Thank you for your passion, and sorry for the little equoc while I was voting on another platform. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your input. I am keeping 2 points: the fact that participation means responsibility, and that countries that adopt active participation are welcoming countries. So before I move to the next speaker, I would like to inform the participants that if you have a question for the panel, you can now use the chat box and send the questions in writing. And after the end of the inputs, I will address your questions to the speakers. So thank you for that. I would like now to give the floor to Drahoslav Stefanek, the Special Representative for Migration and Refugees of the Council of Europe. Mr. Stefanek, you have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me, please? Okay.
Yes, yes.
I hope you can see me as well. I'm a little bit this little bit improvisation on my side because I'm on vacation. So I'm doing it through your mobile. But as I promised to participate, I didn't want to, of course, disappoint Inter alia and Nikos and other panelists. So I'm keeping my promise to participate, and I hope it will work well also in the cooperation with the hotel where I'm staying. This topic is very interesting because as I spoke already with the other panelists and Nikos before, that now we very much focus on social rights or on the reception conditions, dignified returns, protection from non-refoulement. But not very much so far on the political rights. So this is also good for us, for my team to look into that and to look into the legal framework. Before starting, I would say I would like to note that the 1951 Geneva Convention, which is one of the basic instruments in the area of asylum law, does not provide for any special political rights for refugees, providing that they should be afforded the same political rights as other aliens in the country of asylum. So the distinction between migrants and refugees as far as the political rights is not relevant in this context, and there is one application for all, at least based on 1951 Geneva Convention. The emergence of human rights law over the last 50 years had tremendous impact on the positions of aliens and therefore also refugees in international law. In general, human rights law does not distinguish between aliens and citizens, but the notable exception is with regard to the right to participation in an electoral process. Under the European Convention on Human Rights, which is our basic instrument of the Council of Europe, where member states and also us are working on, the voting rights are reserved to nationals only. But it is also true, and we should also say that the convention, European Convention, and this is the case also with the ICCPR, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, deals only with parliamentary elections, and not local elections. State reluctance to recognize migrants' voting rights in their host countries is also exemplified by the 1999 International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all Migrant Workers and Members of their Families, which only provides for migrants' rights to participate in public affairs, vote and run for office in their state of origin. However, we have a convention in the Council of Europe system. It's called Convention on the Participation of Foreigners in Public Life at Local Level, which was adopted in 1992, which expressly provides for inter alia migrants' rights to vote and stand for election at the local level. Under it, migrants would enjoy many political liberties and freedoms, local level voting rights, the existence of consultative bodies, and some information on their rights. The basic prerequisite set by Article 6 of this treaty is migrants' lawful and habitual residence in the host state for 5 years preceding the election. It is quite flexible treaty. It's organized in 3 chapters. Chapter A is obligatory for all signatory states. It includes freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, association, and the right to be involved in local public inquiries. Chapter B, which allows to opt out for states at the moment of signature, there is obligation to encourage and facilitate local consultative bodies of foreign residents. There is also Chapter C, but also unfortunately it's also possible to opt out of that at the moment of signature, which is granting a right to vote at local level after maximum 5 years of residence. To date, this treaty, which is in force since 1997, has been ratified by only 9 member states of the Council of Europe, namely Sweden, Norway, Netherlands, Italy, Iceland, Finland, Denmark, Czech Republic, and Albania. 4 other countries signed the convention but never ratified it. Only Finland signed the convention without any reservation in respect of all 3 chapters which I was referring to. For other Council of Europe bodies, the European Commission for Democracy Through Law, which is more known as the Venice Commission, has drafted a code of good practice in electoral matters. The code states that it would be advisable for foreigners to be allowed to vote in local elections after a certain period of residence. The Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, also known as PACE, has also stressed that the most immigrants want to vote, want more diversity in politics, and would be ready to vote to back this up in its 2014 report. It is recommended by the PACE that the member states ensure that migrants have a say in the democratic process by granting them, in particular, the right to vote at the local level. But this is quite legal approach. On average, migrants are slightly more discouraged than encouraged to participate through the standard civic channels. Limited local voting rights for, and I'm speaking for non-EU foreigners because we are also in the EU context. Weak consultative bodies and poorly supported migrant organizations. People are increasingly more involved in alternative forms. So not to speak about the very rigid and very kind of legally framed context. Alternative forms of political participation and more detached from traditional democratic institutions as political parties. Participation in political life through freedom of association and freedom of expression, the respect of these rights, and migrants' ability to advocate as members of civil society and the media can serve to increase their integration in host societies. We have a program within the Council of Europe, which is called Intercultural Cities program, which has taken an in-depth view at inclusion and has addressed it from the angle of public participation. In 2017, the policy brief on participatory and deliberative democracy strategies for the intercultural city was developed within the project of this Intercultural Cities, ICC. This is a great resource of good practices, examples, and of lessons learned. According to it, several cities have considered how to allow foreigners to be part of the decision-making processes. In practice, participatory democracy platforms, in particular the web-based ones, tend to be accessible to every city resident, or even every internet user without residency restrictions. Given the reasons for which we individuals become refugees, which are quite often political ones, it is unsurprising that many of the refugees, or many of them, will become politically active while in exile or while seeking international protection or asylum. Campaigning for change in their country of origin may indeed be the only way of increasing the chances of being able to return home eventually in some time. In general, participation in such political organizations is guaranteed by the refugees' human rights, in particular the right to freedom of expression and association. Such organizations are entitled to carry out a wide range of activities, including publicizing their views through the media, holding peaceful demonstrations, and sending representatives to highlight their concerns before governments and international organizations. Similarly, refugees are entitled to join organizations concerned with domestic politics in the host state, for example, those that wish to promote the position of foreigners in society. The fact that refugees do not have the right to vote or stand in elections does not mean that they have no right to express their views on matters of concern in the country in which they reside. The exercise of certain political rights is fundamental to the human dignity of refugees. Although they have no right to vote in the country of asylum, their refugee status does not preclude them from being able to express political opinions and engaging in a meaningful political life. And indeed, refugees, like other aliens, quoting also the wording from Geneva Convention, are entitled to the same freedom of expression, association, and assembly as citizens of the host country. Thank you. I will stop here. Just to tell you that I will have to leave at 5:30 as was planned. I can't go over time. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar.
Thank you, Mr. Stefanek, for your input, for the participation and the interesting mentions on the Geneva Convention, the treaties, and the issue of political participation of both refugees and migrants. Last but not least, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Riona Balani, Advocacy Officer at Generation 2.0 for Rights, Equality, and Diversity. Riona, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I had some very technical problems before, but I'm with you now. Thank you very much for inviting Generation 2.0 for Rights, Equality, and Diversity. And thank you very much to the previous speakers, because they gave us very interesting insights. Mrs. Valmorbida about what is happening in Italy, and Mr. Stefanek about what it means for the Council of Europe according to considering the immigration issue. So I'm going to raise here the issue of immigration in Greece. What is the Greek reality according to this issue? So how important to the integration of immigrants is the participation in local elections, and is this enough to consider them integrated to the Greek society? So these are the two issues. I heard Mrs. Antonella of what is happening to the Italian reality, and they don't have any law they don't have any law of immigrants participating in local elections. So first, I want to start with who are the immigrants? I mean, we always hear about immigrants and foreigners, and who are these immigrants? So there are people of immigrant backgrounds who have lived in Greece for more than 40 years, actually. That is 2/3 of their lives. And they have the required legal documents, and they actively participate in the activities of the local and broad community in Greece, and they work legally. Hence, they are vital parts of the state treasury, and many of them are married to Greek citizens, which means that they are parents to Greek citizens, and they are parents to second generation Greek citizens. And this means that they are raising the very heart of Greece in their homes, the next generation. But we are talking about the integration and active participation of all these people. They are somewhere near 500,000 people in Greece, and they are participating in public life and in civil society, actually. So as the generation 2.0, we are thinking that their participation in politics, starting from the local government, must be of serious concern to us, because it may ultimately be the most dynamic means of integration in our society. So, of course, this is not a recent issue raised in Greece, because I have to send you back in 2010, where something extraordinary happened in Greece for the Greek reality, I mean, because the Greek parliament passed the immigration law 3838, broadly known as Ragusi Law. And I will quote in this on this that that law recognized the immigration, the immigrants, the right to vote in the local elections. It was a very important law, because the immigrants had were recognized the right to vote in local elections. So, of course, there were some prerequisites, such as a type of residence permit, provided that they have resides legally in the country for the last 5 years. But that was okay. There was also recognized the categories, the rights to stand, and the right to stand as a candidate, with 2 additional conditions. The one condition was the condition to be sufficient familiar with the Greek language, and the other prerequisite was the right to the occupation of posts such as being a member of the municipal council or municipal of local department. Unfortunately for us, this was a very very promising law, but it was applied once in the local elections, and it was applied in 2010. Only then. Why was that? That was because the law was subsequently declared unconstitutional by the Council of State, and the plenary decision 460 2013. And in 2014, the law was abolished by the amendment of the Minister of Interior. But during this period, were the immigrants active and involved in this election? They were not. And why was that, actually? Why was that? I have to send you back in 2011. I have a story for you. Why weren't then the immigrants involved in the elections? This story was taking place in a neighborhood in central Athens, and there was an annual assembly of the residents of the building, and they had to choose the supervisor. So amongst all the residents, there was a man from Albania. His name was Mr. Nikos. And the fact that he was never a supervisor of the building, despite that fact, everybody, even the actual supervisor, always went to him to ask and fix everything in the building. So that particular evening, every single one suggested that he should be a supervisor in the building, and he refused. And I remember what he said was that I cannot be the supervisor. I am a migrant. What if something serious happens to the building? What is going to happen to me? So we can see here the insecurity that immigrants feel here in Greece, despite that at some point in time there was a law that that they could participate in the local elections, but they feel insecure because they don't have the support of the Greek state. And the Greek state is well aware that there is a lack of policies in Greece for the integration of citizens of migrant origin. And integration policy has been implemented, and no one has ever been prepared to become a member of the Greek society. So even now, in the context of the reshaping the citizenship, it has not given the minimum of preparation and advance for people to become active members of society and to decide they want to be citizens of this country. So how can we talk about a plan to integrate immigrants and refugees? How can we talk about activating participation in society when we exclude them from co-decision and from participating in decision-making centers? And how can we talk about a plan to integrate the immigrants, to create, when we create first and second class citizens and don't give them the right to vote? But is this enough? This is not enough, because there are so many other things that the Greek states should do to make the immigrants part of the society. So we have to empower the members of local communities to not be afraid to feel citizens, because they are citizens. They just don't have a citizenship. And I think Mrs. Valmorbida said it concerning the Italian reality. They are citizens because they are a vital and important part of our society. And they should not be afraid to feel like that. And we have to advocate and set a powerful agenda toward local government and central government to set the right policies to achieve that. Adla?
You have finished? Sorry, I didn't understand that it was really interesting. And I must say the story with the Albanian migrant was very interesting. So thank you, Eriona, and thank all the speakers for their useful inputs. And now we can have questions from the attendants, or even if the participants in the panel themselves would like to address a question to someone else from the panel. I can see Ms. Valmorbida has a question. I will give you the floor, and I think that Nikos also wants to. So I'll give the floor first to Ms. Valmorbida and then Nikos. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'd like just to contribute to all the interesting presentation today. I think that the key point for me is to enable those who have to act as citizens, so to be part of, because citizens, you know, it's a term which is not only, it's not a human being. A citizen is something more. A citizen means to be part of the city. You know, in French, le citoyen, yeah, this term means really to be part. You know, citoyen and citoyenne means those who are belonging and part of it, you know? So I think that the point here is that we should not think ideologically here, you know? I think that a person coming from Afghanistan, yeah, as they land in our cities, they cannot be put in the situation right now as they arrive to vote, for instance, because it doesn't make sense. It is actually thinking that democracy and vote is something stupid. As for anyone else, you need to enable them to have all the information to be able to understand the issues at stake. Because if we give them a pen and we say vote without being ready for that, without having the information, they are not, you know, stupid people. They know that they are missing information. So I think that the first thing to do is enabling the people, as we try and struggle to enable, you know, our Italian or Greek citizens to be able to vote in consciousness, you know. But we need to enable them to understand what they are voting for. If we are pushing them in the arena just for the sake of ideology, you are creating even more damage, because they feel manipulated. They feel, you know, what for? So I think that the first thing is really consider them citizens and enable them to be part of it. It goes through language, it goes through understanding the institution, it goes through civic education, it goes through preparation. So I don't think that we need to be purely ideological, because a person is not, you know, I'd be a bit provocative, as citizens, you know, you need to be enabled to do that. And that means to pay respect to them, you know, because they will say, okay, now I have the information, I can decide what is good for this community. So I think that enabling them to be part of it is very, very, very important. And if we don't do that, and we end up by giving them the right to vote and pretending that for any kind of strange regions, you know, somebody coming from Central Asia is able to be engaged and lock in a matter of a month into a local community, I don't understand. I think it's, and that's something that I would like to underline. We need to spend a lot of energy at the political level to make our communities hosting and welcoming citizens, because this is the solution for the future of our communities. That's 100% sure. But on the other hand, we need to get, you know, resources for preparing them all, men and women, yes, men and women, being exposed to civic education and other kind of instrument that can enabling them to vote, to think, to act with their specificity, with their, you know, story, with what they have lived, you know, through, but understanding what they are voting for, yes? Not pretending that they are citizens just by miracle.
Thank you very much, Ms. Valmorbida. I would add that we need to be enabled as migrant and refugee community self-organized, because it is another very interesting and step towards democracy. And I would give the floor to Nikos, who has a question. Nikos? You're muted, Nikos, we cannot hear you. Would you like to try again? Okay, I will continue. So does anyone else have a question or an input that they want to address to our panelists? I see from the, I have to tell you that there are many good points in the presentations that you did, Ms. Valmorbida. This is what I have. And I have also Nikos, can you speak now?
I think so. I could speak even before, but you didn't listen.
No.
All right. To the very interesting presentation of Antonella, I would also point out the men, women, as you duly point out, and other, probably to a more progressive and advanced-looking agenda. And I have a question to Mr. Stefanek. because for some reason, and the Council of Europe as a political instrument, in my understanding, is an instrument that is in its recommendations and also policies and proposals. It is always more progressive and one or more steps advance ahead of the European Union and of course of national governments. So I was wondering about the collaboration between the Council of Europe and civil society. I mean, is there a strategy for including civil society in the management and in dealing anyway with the migrant question on the issue of political rights, and maybe on a more general note, either in a practical terms like policy recommendations that are addressed to the involvement of the civil society sector, or as programs addressed to civil society organizations that could support migrant integration, for instance?
Yeah, thank you, Nikos. We have one organization within the Council of Europe system, which is called INGO. It's a conference of international non-governmental organization, which comprises of 300 actually NGOs all around Europe. And I'm cooperating with them. I was already guest to one of the meetings. Unfortunately, now the meetings are held only through video, and we are in this webinars system. I was also in contact with the president of the INGO. There will be and there is also one part of these NGOs which are actually specifically dealing with the migration. And also there is one committee in this INGO conference which is in charge of the migration issues. Integration is the key word, and I also agree to some extent to very interesting intervention by Antonella, also for kind of thought provoking. Because that should come first, and I agree with that, because only when you are integrated, when you know the society, the local specificities, then you can meaningfully participate in the political process. The scope is limited because we are speaking about local. If you speak about elections, the framework is limited. We are not speaking about parliamentary elections. We should be clear. We can't go against the convention, European Convention, which is kind of like our Bible for the Council of Europe. But we are speaking about local elections. But as I said in my statement, I would not only focus on elections per se, but about the participation processes, which are quite often driven by the NGO community, local NGOs which are helping to migrants or refugees to integrate. Very important question is also narrative. Narrative is very it's quite negative in most of the European countries, and we have to change it. We have to change it to more positive connotation, because if we don't have this, then the whole ambiance and the whole framework will not be favorable, and will not be open to integration of migrants. As I say, we have these intercultural cities where NGOs are definitely involved, and we have also very nice project, the European Qualifications passport for refugees, which is distributing or giving the refugees certificates, and those certificates can help them to find jobs or to find or to be enrolled in universities in higher education. I'm very friendly. I have very good attachment to NGO community, and they have direct access to me and to my office because they do the work on the ground. We should also not forget that often states are outsourcing to the work for instance, even the centers or camps to international organizations, and then they outsource some activities to the NGOs. So the role of NGO is crucial in the migration and the refugee context.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I see one very interesting question. I think that Barcelona came up with the brilliant notion of future citizen for undocumented migrants, as experience learns that undocumented will in due time get their legal residence. Whether they also have rights to local voting, I'm not sure, but I think so. So what is your position on that? Would you like to, I think that Ms. Valmorbrida already has answered that it is an interesting concept. Does any other panelist want to elaborate on that? Mr. Stefanek, would you like to say something on that?
Sorry, Adla, just to point out also that
I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry. I had an interruption.
Sorry, it's not actually a question. It's just a notion of future citizen for undocumented migrants that is already been an experience in Barcelona. So I'm just putting it on the table if you would like to elaborate on that or comment that.
And also just one point, Adla, before Mr. Stefanek, adding up to this concept, because I think words are important and words build culture and build institutions, and in that sense, it would be very interesting to hear what Mr. Stefanek, as a representative of an institution carrying this this framework of as an institution, how this idea sounds to him.
Yes, the Barcelona. I don't know the details, but I know that Barcelona is a city which is very much open to migrants, and it was one of the cities which actually have called their respective governments to receive the migrants, or for instance to relocate the unaccompanied children from Greece, when we are speaking about the Greece. So I remember maybe it was maybe Porto, but there are also some cities from Portugal and some other cities. Barcelona was sure amongst them, and we need these examples, because sometimes there is no willingness or no positive attitude at the central level, at the central government level. But the cities and important cities and big cities as Barcelona can give us very good examples. I don't know how the local elections, as was also the question was, I don't think that could happen. I mean, by the decision of the city, because the rules have to be, I think, the same for. It depends how on the state and constitutional framework of the country. But I very much welcome such initiatives, and I'm very grateful. And if I hear such good examples, we need more of them. There were some good examples in the COVID times when countries or cities were very much forthcoming in cooperation and providing the legal status, for instance, that happened in Portugal, legal status for migrants in Portugal. There was also some good examples in Italy, for instance. On this, Nikos, this is interesting. This topic is interesting, and we will look into that, because we, as I told you, and as I said in my intervention, we were more at the beginning focused on more, I would say, the urgent matters as are reception facilities, as are the conditions in which the migrants and refugees are in the centers or in the camps. We were trying to find alternatives to detention, but we were not very much looking into the political rights, and I think this is a very good, I would say, contribution of this webinar, that we will look on that, because also when preparing the statement, we have found out many things which were also maybe new for us. You know, we have in the Council of Europe system, we have more than 200 conventions, and no, I don't think that there is any person in the system who would know them, who would even know that we are regulating this and this area. We can't be over ambitious, because we have to secure the migrants and the people on the move, undocumented migrants or irregular migrants, as we call it, the basic rights, the basic standards, and they are actually focused on them, because if you come, they need good conditions for the stay. They need a regular food. They need other things which are more connected to the social rights. And as it was, I think, said by Antonella, or no, it was said by Ariona, they are maybe not very much interested in the political rights in the first place. But we can change this narrative, and then this also good task for the NGO community to inform them and to bring this closer to them. My experience also from the missions were more, I would say, down to earth problems or questions, as was the health, sanitation, food, and shelters, you know, and then only political rights maybe, but it's interesting. Yeah.
Sorry,
well, I'm sorry. It's not that they are not interesting
yes.
in the political life of the country. It's that they feel insecure, because there is not a legal basis in the countries to feel secure about their participation. That is what I said. I mean, they feel really insecure. They participate in a lot of everyday life events, but they feel insecure because the law do not protect them. And as far as the Barcelona, because I'm reading it right now, it is an interesting concept, because I said it in the beginning of my speech. These people are the people that are living in our countries for years. I mean, they are raising their children in our countries, and their children are the next generation of our countries. So why not having the right to vote in local elections? They are not typically citizens, but they are citizens. They just don't have the citizenship. They are citizens. We have to make this very clear, because they live here, they contribute to our countries, and they want maybe to live in our countries, and their children are raised in our countries. So they are citizens. What is the definition of citizen, Mr. Stefanek? Isn't that this the participation in a country?
And not only that, but I think that to add up to what Ariona is saying, I think that there should be a distinction between the people who came after 2015 and the people who were earlier in the countries in Europe, because migration didn't start in 2015. In 2015, we have a huge flow of refugees. So it's a different thing to be a refugee, and it's another thing to be an immigrant in a country. So there should be a distinction in these two. Because I agree with what Antonella said in the beginning, that you cannot ask for someone who just came in a country to vote. But from someone who is in the country and is over 30 or 40 years, you should expect him or her to be part of the political and participate in the politics of the country, even if it is in the local level or in a national level.
Yeah, I would like to maybe to react. I'm not. I'm in favor of these people to vote and to be able to vote in the local elections. And you don't need to be a citizen, strictly speaking, for that. It could be possible for states to allow the people with the residence and not based on the citizenship requirement to vote in the elections, as it's happening in the EU. In the EU, you don't have to be a citizen of a particular country, but if you have a residence, you can vote in whatever 27 member states. So it's up to the countries. Citizenship, although I don't agree with I'm a lawyer, and this we are not speaking now about the citizenship and this citizenship is a legal relations with a state, which you and it provides with some rights and also for some obligations. So parliamentary elections are reserved for citizens. That is true. That is clear. I think we don't have to question that. For local elections, I'm all in favor for migrants to take part. My mandate is more focused on undocumented and irregular migrants. So I'm not very much. Addressing on everyday basis the people who have been staying and who got some protection or asylum and who have been staying legally in the territory. This is not my portfolio. We are dealing more with the people who are really on the move and who are in the centers and in the camps.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that. I think that we have just a very few minutes left. I don't know if anyone else wants to make some of them would like to add something. Ms. Valmorbrida, would you like to add
just
something?
maybe a question, Adla, to Ms. Valmorbrida. I would also like to ask in relation to the representativeness of local institutions. I see a strong connection between the right to vote for migrants and the representative of local institutions, and to increasing dynamics of local institutions and local governance, because otherwise, if not everyone in a municipality, let's say, or if a city is not represented by political institutions, then their gravity, let's say, and their special weight as institutions would also be undermined. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if whether I understood the whole thing, because the connection was not super nice. But yes, I think I got the thing globally. I think I have two things to say at that hour of the day about such an important topic. First one is that the issue of mobility and the fact that this mobility is not only within the EU, but indeed that we are going to have a large group of people who are going to arrive into Europe because of instability, because of immense difficulties and so on. So we will have to address this issue not marginally, but substantially first. So it's not a marginal topics of politics or whatever. It's going to be structurally an issue. And that has an impact in countries like mine and yours, namely Greece, and Italy, which have a challenge with this, which have a cultural challenge, which are protective and questioning, the sense of identity, So I think that this is something which is going to be immense, and that's it. You can like it, not like it, you know, you whatever, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and this is it. The second thing is that how do we take the most out of it, basically, because this is going to happen. So if you are not taking the most out of it, and if you are afraid, if you don't have the structure, if you don't prepare yourself to this impact or to this new structural setting, you cannot get the most out of it, because it's always reactive. You need to think after, you need to solve conflicts and so on. So to take the most out of it, namely to change our society, to be able to include them and to make sure that our society are changing thanks to them. So their energy, the fact that they have a plan. I mean, what these people are bringing to us, it's not that their desperation, is their hope. They are bringing their hope, which we have lost on the way. So I think that it's evident that with this hope that they have, and of course, very strong life behind, we can take the most of it by building them European citizens. Yeah. So by building them European citizens, I think that the local level is the most dynamic way of doing, because it has a sort of apolitical aspect, it has a pragmatic aspect, it has a very direct aspect of it. And this is a place where they can integrate their life, jobs, families, going to school, etc., etc. So I think this is super important to give to them a welcoming, you know, area. And this is indeed a place where they can create dynamism in the local communities, Nikos, as you said. This is super important. And it's, you know, I think that from that perspective, I often say, when we go to New York, we find multi-ethnic society so cool, yeah, because it's New York City, and we think, oh my God, everybody is at home here, they are multicultural society, it sounds great. And why multicultural society are not cool here in Europe? It's dangerous, it's not nice, oh my God, they are aggressing our identity, and we don't enjoy the same way that the melting pot, which is not really this, I mean, also the melting pot has its own problems, let's say so. But I mean, you know, I think we have a global challenge there. I think that the local communities have a lot to do. I think that I have a lot of hope in the future generation, which are definitely overcoming a lot of these issues. Schools are changing people. So there are ways, NGOs, as you said, civil society make an immense difference. So I think that the local level is an immense potential of integration. Of course, for Europeans, I would say to all of us folks, we need to change ourselves, because multiculturalism, it's there, and it has its added value in terms of social, economic, personal level, and if we don't get prepared, we don't get the best out of it, which we damnly need. So yes, dynamism through the presence of migration and immigrants. I'm also, and just as a conclusion, I am the daughter, I am an immigrant an immigrant from Italy into another country. I lived 20 years in another country. My parents left a very poor Italy to Brazil, then came back, and what do we do? Still no jobs here. We moved to somewhere else in Europe, and we brought development in the place where we were going. So, I mean, yes, I think migrants are an immense chance, and it's a must to work on it, and local level is a very important place to develop this potential.
I'm sorry, I totally recognize myself with Mrs. Antonella, since I am a second generation here in Greece of migrant background, of migrant parents. I especially recognized what she said, the hope, but the hope has to be backed up by the law, actually. And I really believe that the local community is the start for immigrants to be integrated in every community, in every state. So we have to back up that particular law to be for the immigrants to be able to participate in the local community. This is the start. We have to start slowly, but for the big win, not for the quick win. This is my point.
Okay. Yes, that's true. We have to take at least the first small step towards local representation.
Fortunately, we had that in Greece, but unfortunately, though, 2 years later, it was declared unconstitutional, that law, the 3838, by the Council of State. So maybe we could, in every way and in any way, trying to get that back in order to empower the local communities to not be afraid to feel citizens. And we have to advocate and set a powerful agenda toward local government and central government to set the right policies to achieve this.
Very nice. If you don't have any other inputs, I think that we are running a bit out of time because we said that we would finish at 6:30. So I'm summing this up. We managed to at least open the discussion on political representation, and I think that we all have a positive feeling on what can happen in local level. I would really like to thank our speakers, Dragoslav Stefanek, Special Representative for Migration and Refugees on the Council of Europe, Antonella Varmobida, Secretary General of ALDA, European Association for Local Democracy, and Eriona Balani, Advocacy Officer at Generation 2.0 for Rights, Equality and Diversity, and of course Interalia for hosting and organizing this panel and this conference in total. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the attendees and the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you. And on behalf of Interalia, we would like to thank you, Adla, for supporting this. And just for one small point about a technical issue. Okay, and Adla, sorry, it's life is really complicated, but there is a question on Facebook that I think is fair to be heard.
Of course.
There are so many of us Latinx political, but so few at the national level. As we refugees, how can we get executives to understand the need to hire us, to grant us the right to tell us our own stories and cover our own communities, to promote understanding, respect, and the idea that we are all human? I suppose this is not a question addressed to our panelists, but it's I think it is an important concern raised by a person who is actually receiving the policies applied on the national level, and it is worth being heard at least, and being heard and paying attention to it. Yes, that was that, and okay, and just wanting to wrap this up and say that tomorrow we continue, starting at 9:30 Central European Time, with a panel on migrant integration, including the head of unit of the European Commission for Integration and Legal Pathways, as well as Melina Daskalaki, who is an executive Vice Mayor for Migrants and Refugees. This discussion will be attended by a large number of municipalities and local institutions that will have a chance to reflect on what the two speakers will have to say. Following to that, we have a panel about COVID and the opportunities that it provides for reflecting on where the migrant issue is at the moment. The third panel is on intersectional aspects of migration and the current situation. And finally, we close with a panel by From the Sea to the City, including legal experts, activists, civil society organizations, and politicians. And this will wrap up the panels. There is a workshop, a World Cafe, in the afternoon. We warmly invite you to join. And hoping that there will be no technical glitches tomorrow. We have a webinar, so we have an unlimited number of participants who can join seamlessly and without problems. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Adla, Antonella, Eriona, Drahoslav. Hope it was fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adla.
Thank you. Thank you.